That's up in the air. Captain Cronje's underneath it.
Having won their last 9 tests on home soil, South Africa went into the first of their 5-match series full of confidence. They were also out for revenge after England had turned the tables on them in thrilling fashion 18 months earlier.
Obviously we were disappointed to have lost that test series. We thought we had played some very good cricket up until the last test, and we were a bit unlucky and we thought things didn't go for us. So we were sort of quite determined to put the record straight and show that we were the better of the two teams. And it's always easy on your own home turf, but there was a bit more to it than just trying to win the series.
Perhaps the most crucial moment of the series took place before a ball was bowled. Hussein's wrong call setting up a traumatic opening for England.
Bowled it out!
This series was all built up around Donald versus Atherton, and they'd done their homework, and when they knocked Atherton over with a perfect delivery to him, you know, it was all planned. That was where they wanted to bowl to him. They did the same to Stewart. They actually bowled. These two can bowl where they're told to bowl, and that's a great asset for a captain.
That's a great delivery.
Yeah, it was very good. You don't have too many test matches that start like that. In 3 or 4 overs we had them 4 down, so it was the perfect start for us. The overhead conditions were absolutely perfect. Ball was swinging around and the pitch was assisting us too, so we got off to a great start, just the sort of start you want to start a series off with.
Well, that was an extraordinary situation, wasn't it, to see Atherton, Stewart, Hussein and Butcher all back in the pavilion. As you say, 4 England captains, and to find 2 players playing their debut, Adams and Vaughan, neither who had faced a ball. That was the extraordinary thing. Vaughan had come in at number 4, but the number 6 batsman was in to face his first ball before Vaughan had even faced a ball in Test cricket. So a huge pressure against the world's number 1 and the world's number 2 bowler on a damp pitch, and really at 2 for 4 they had no chance. The game was pretty well over then.
That combination wrapped up the England innings shortly after lunch. Donald had taken 6 for 53 and Pollock 4 for 16.
I don't think we're that competitive with each other. I think we do definitely work together. Obviously we're 2 different kinds of bowlers. I tend to shape it away and he tends to shape it in, and obviously he's a lot quicker than I am. And I bowl a lot closer to the stumps than him, so I think we do complement each other, and it's a good variation, and I think it's been quite effective for us.
That will be a big appeal, and up will go the finger. Yes, and the innings has ended at 122. Umpire Venkat sends him on his way, and the South African opening batsman Gary Kirsten and Herschel Gibbs trot ahead of the team. They want to get up the stairs and into the dressing room to get those pads on.
Initially, South Africa had problems of their own on the difficult surface, but soon Herschel Gibbs and Darryl Cullinan were manufacturing a considerable lead.
Yeah, we were sort of struggling to find a regular opening partner for Gary, and in the last year Herschel's really come to the fore. He got a 200 in New Zealand and he got some good one-day scores in the World Cup, and he really has come good for us.
Gibbs was finally bowled by Mullally for 85, but Cullinan pressed on to a fine century.
Jeepers, that's special.
Yeah, I think we needed to get a bigger score, and Darryl came to the front. He played well through the whole series and got 2 test hundreds at very vital times and allowed us to win both the test matches, which got us the lead. So he did play very well at that stage on a wicket that wasn't very easy.
It's the best I've seen him for a while. I mean, he's got runs consistently through his career, but he's had a few little troughs, and I actually felt he was coming into this game a little bit out of nick. And well, we played him back into form, didn't we? I mean, he played beautifully on a good track, and let's face it, not under any pressure, because by the time he was in his 20s and 30s, England were already under the cosh.
But Cullinan will get through for 3 and post his 9th Test 100.
Cullinan for 108 and Cronje for 44 were both bowled during a good spell from Carrick and Gough, but Lance Klusener's stand and deliver style pushed the total towards 400.
He goes again, this time a little squarer, but the same result.
Perhaps Nasser Hussain struggled in this first Test match, didn't really know what to do, had to keep the pressure on. He had to have Gough or Caddick at them all the time. To bowl Gough and Caddick out and have 2 fresh bowlers, 2 young bowlers bowling the other end, well, Mullally, who didn't really find the cut strip very much, bowled very wide, and Hamilton playing his first Test, those 2 bowling together, and I just felt he got that wrong. He needed Gough or Caddick at them all the time, but he of course got better as we went along, but that was perhaps his poorest Test, I felt, Nasser Hussain, but never easy when you're under pressure.
Bowled him out.
Gough claimed 3 good wickets on the third morning, including Pollock and Donald to successive balls, and England were left with a deficit of 281 to make up. Again, things didn't start well.
And he's gone. He's bagged him. 0-0 in the test match. Second ball and first ball.
Well, I think there was obviously the keys is Atherton when they came back for long periods, and then I think our class players are obviously Hussain and Stewart. So once we had got Atherton out early doors, and then Hussain went, we knew we were in with a good chance.
The problem is when Michael Atherton gets a pair, and not the only one, of course. Gavin Hamilton, poor fella, he got a pair, and what a brute he got from Alan Donald. But when your leading player goes out early and you're miles behind the ball game, you've got the world's best 2 quick bowlers in at you. I think England did okay, to be honest. I think it was in the field where it drifted.
Vaughan's dismissal left England at 41 for 3, but a forthright innings from Alex Stewart gave England supporters some boundaries to cheer at last.
Alex Stewart, well, when you consider that they nearly didn't bring him, and they were considering writing him off and playing Chris Reed, of course, as the wicket-keeper who'd kept against New Zealand in the summer. It would have been well, it was showed up to be. It would have been a terrible mistake, to be honest. He played magnificently. He was the one player who was positive throughout the series.
Shot, beautifully hit.
And this has beaten mid-off and is 4 runs. Slashed over the slips for 4. Well, we've seen quite a lot of aggression from Stewart in this innings. And that 4 brings up his 50. Now he lashes it through the covers. Magnificent shot. That will annoy the captain even more.
That could be close, it is.
Butcher's unlucky LBW decision set the Donald Pollock machine back on track, and 145 for 3 quickly became 166 for 7.
Edge gone, caught behind. Boucher takes the catch. Donald gets 2 in the over.
He's caught by Jonty Rhodes at point. He's at it again, and there's another one here for him. Yes, that's number 11 in the test match.
With all 17 wickets to the name so far, it looked like a rare feat was in the offing.
We didn't know, but the morning before the last 3 wickets were taken, someone came to us and said that if we managed to get the last 3 between us, we'd equal a world record. So we didn't manage to, but I think we're still pretty happy with our performance.
Straight back to Paul Adams. Very strange dismissal indeed.
But he got reward this time. Perfect line and length. Caddick never in line, and his off stump and middle stump are severely damaged. Edge and gone. Well, that's the end of the test match. Another super delivery from Shaun Pollock, and he gets his 4th of the innings. England all out for 260, and South Africa win by an innings and 21.
So victory by an innings and 21 runs early on the 4th morning. But how significant had the toss been in the result?
As far as I'm concerned, that was not a good pitch to start a test series on. It's one that had England had 2 months cricket or something first, then maybe they got away with it. But there's a theory in South Africa that it didn't matter who won the toss, South Africa were going to win the game. I don't agree with that, because I think England would have bowled very well on that pitch, and I think they went into the game with a lot of confidence, and I think it would have been, the result would have been reversed. So win the toss, win the game, I think is very unfair.
If England had been on the wrong side of the coin at the Wanderers, they were more fortunate at Port Elizabeth. Again, conditions were overcast, but this time it was the visitors who took the field.
Well, I felt it was a very good toss for Nasser Hussain to win at Port Elizabeth and put South Africa in, for very defensive, negative reasons, I have to say. After being 2 for 4 at the Wanderers, we arrived at Port Elizabeth and it was overcast, it was damp, the ball was bound to swing, there was a strong wind coming over the sort of the right shoulder of the bowlers from the pavilion where it does swing most, apparently. So it all pointed to be a nightmare morning for batting, and I don't believe Nasser Hussain's team could have coped with that morning after the disaster at Johannesburg.
Oh, he stumped him.
Cullinan's departure for an aggressive 58 left South Africa in some trouble at 146 for 5. But England seemed paralysed by the appearance of Lance Klusener.
Yeah, we sort of didn't play too well up front. The ball went around, and 146 for 5, as you say, is not a great place to be, but you know, middle order came to the party again and we managed to rectify things.
4 more.
Awesome innings from Lance Klusener there at Port Elizabeth, because he played like a batsman. People think he's a slogger, and he's not. I mean, he can slog, but he slogs straight. And that innings was a world-class innings, in my view. It's just that he doesn't look like a batsman because of his stance, and people, we know he's got this big, heavy bat, and they're waiting to see this blistering shot over the top. He hardly hit the ball in the air there at all throughout that innings, and even when Tufnell came on, he teased him for a while. Everyone he chucked up, he waited for it. When it was chucked up, bang, it had gone. But he didn't play any injudicious strokes in between. It was a remarkable innings.
Klusener is on fire.
I think it's the one thing we got wrong in the series, the way we bowled to Lance Klusener. It took the whole series for us to actually work out that Klusener likes space. We knew he liked space outside off stump. He likes room to hit the ball. He consistently cut good deliveries just short of length from Caddick on off stump, particularly at Port Elizabeth, where he was unbelievable. He was cutting him over cover and decent balls, you know, just leaning back and hitting him. No English bowler went round the wicket to him at all, I don't believe, at the Wanderers, and hardly at all Port Elizabeth. Now what happens is you say, well, why didn't they do it? It was obvious to everybody watching that you've got to cramp him up. But I think it's turned out that the bowlers don't bowl very well from around the wicket.
And that's 4 more.
I think he's always been a guy who, when the ball's in the right area, will give it a good smack. So I think he's been probably a bit more selective, and I think that's contributed to him playing better in the test matches.
He's hit that. No fielder will find that. He's hit it miles.
Klusener finally fell for a magnificent 174, and the South Africans had posted 450, the highest test score on the ground. Butcher then played on to Pollock in the second over, leaving Atherton and Hussain to salvage the match.
Knocked the off stump out of the ground.
It was a frightening first couple of overs watching him bat, because you know the last thing he wanted was another 3 noughts on the trot. But he got away, and once he got into double figures, he played really well. It was back to the old Atherton. I mean, it was a typical Atherton innings, a stubborn, cutted innings. Those two aren't going to get me out, Donald and Pollock. They're not going to get me out again.
Well, Donald's just feeding him outside the off stump, far too wide.
Crack, he's hit that like a tracer. Well, it's a real contest between these two. It brings up the captain's half-century.
Pulled away very firmly. Beautifully played, that shot.
And that's an excellent 50 for Atherton.
Hussain made a stylish 82 before top-edging a hook at Donald, and then Atherton became the first England batsman to register a test century for almost 12 months.
I reckon that was, if you like, the turning point of the series for England. Atherton's 100, because it meant that England were fighting, and Hussain and Stewart, the strokes they played there against Donald and Pollock, also changed the whole face of the series. It wasn't going to be a question of England fending off Donald and Pollock. They actually took them on, Hussain hooking for 6 and Stewart cutting and hooking, and all of a sudden it was a different game. It wasn't England sitting there sort of lambs to the slaughter.
A respectable showing from the middle order included a rare assault on Pollock from Andrew Flintoff, which took England to 373 all out.
Yeah, I think they did bat very well, but I thought we stuck to our task pretty well. It wasn't as easy a wicket as it was up front, so we had to work hard and toil.
The best bowling figures went to new cap Nanty Haywood, who looked a real discovery, the quickest bowler on either side.
Caddick is out and the England innings ends.
Leading by 77, the South Africans were unexpectedly slow in their efforts to press home their advantage.
South Africa were poor. I mean, I thought they never looked as if they were going all out to win the game at all. Then they got themselves in a lot of trouble. They lost wickets. And if you remember the catch, the Callis-Adams catch would have made a difference.
Brilliantly caught. Brilliantly caught. That's if it carried. It just could be that part of the ball might have touched the ground, purely because it hasn't gone into his hand. It's stuck in the end of his fingers there.
They got themselves in a bit of a mess where they thought we could actually be in trouble here. And instead of pushing on, which they're so good at, running England ragged in the field, they went on the all-out defensive, and could actually have got in trouble where England might have chased something.
Yeah, we were thinking of obviously setting them a target, and we just weren't too sure what was a good target. would have ideally liked to have bowled on the 4th day and set them something like 300s or so. But we didn't come across that quick enough, so it was difficult for us to declare. As you say, we didn't want to sacrifice a 1-0 lead, so we were probably a touch conservative.
And again, Rhodes goes to 50 with a very typical shot.
The declaration eventually came on the final morning, with Kallis 85 and Rhodes 57 both unbeaten. It looked too late for Cronje to force a win, but 2 early wickets set alarm bells ringing for England.
So the breakthrough comes. Oh, that's close. That's out. What a start today for Hayward.
Hussain showed typical aggression early on, but in the end it took an Atherton-esque innings from the England captain to secure a hard-earned draw.
And Nasser was setting out on I think what turned out to be about a 17-hour vigil without being out. This was the start of it, and well, he played well. It's not Nasser Hussain of the old, where you felt that he can play well for a while and then he'll perhaps slice one at gully. He had that very open face when he started his career. He doesn't do that very much anymore, and as soon as he does, he's a coach's dream, really. You could go up to say, Nasser, the face of the bat's open again, and he straightens it out. He's terrific, and I was very impressed with the way he captained during that game as well. He kept the troops going in the field brilliantly, and he got better and better as the series went along.
A series of poor umpiring decisions meant that England could never relax, but Hussain's enduring presence kept Cronje at bay to the end.
This was a huge morale booster to save the game. Although some people felt this would have been a good opportunity for England to have won the game, having won the toss and had the best of those conditions. The pitch never did very much, and I think the way England survived on the last day, they just had that little scare at the end when the wickets started to tumble. But I think that was almost as a sort of relief. The game was saved, I believe, when those late wickets fell. So I thought, all in all, this was a top performance from England. They got the pride back after the Wanderers.
Good shot. Action at last. Down the ground, and we'll go for 4.
England won the toss at Kingsmead, Durban, and chose to bat. After a turgid first day when only 135 runs were scored for the loss of 2 wickets, the arrival of Alex Stewart on the second morning transformed the innings.
Well, we had this extraordinary situation of Nasser Hussain batting for 2 days and really not playing as fluently as he had done at Port Elizabeth on a similar pitch. It was a touch slower. It wasn't that easy to play big shots, as it was proved throughout the game.
Yeah, coming from Durban, we used to that being one of the quicker wickets and sort of one of the more bouncy wickets myself. So I played there, it's my home ground, so it was a bit surprising to come across a wicket like that, and they did bat very well. We had some bad weather before that, so it didn't really allow the wicket to be prepared as well as the groundsmen wanted. So it was a touch flat, and they did bat very well.
That's an even better shot. That's in front of square.
Pulled away. Stewart is so strong there.
Alex Stewart, though, just totally turned the game on its head when he came in, because I mean, England have been very, very slow, very defensive, very negative in a way, you felt at the time. But you've got to think that, okay, they're 1-0 down in the series, can't afford to go 2-0 down. And Nasser Hussain he's not the sort of type to say, right, we've got to rush into winning a game back quickly. You know, let's play proper Test cricket. He's a proper Test cricketer. Stewart, of course, isn't. He's a great entertainer, and he's come in and just murdered them. And it was fantastic to watch.
Oh, and he's found the gap again. Gibbs is chasing. He can give it up. That is beautifully played for a 50 of the highest order from Alex Stewart.
Hussain always said he stuck by his guns. He said, I'm sorry, but a first innings total is what we need. We haven't done it in 17 Test matches. We haven't got a first innings lead. You know, we have to get a first innings lead, and we have to give ourselves a chance of setting up a victory, and he did.
Nicely turned away, beautifully timed. That'll race away for 4. That's as good a stroke as Stewart has played. Again, short again, and 4 more. Stewart hasn't missed out on any bad ball that Adams has bowled since lunch. Edge and 4, and that 100. Doesn't matter how you get there. Hussain delighted with his 800 in Test cricket. And a hug from Alex Stewart, who's contributed in a great way towards the way Hussain has played today, certainly.
This must be out, surely. Yes! At last he's got him. And Alex Stewart has gone. And sad for him that he falls 5 short of what would have been his 13th Test 100.
Bowled him out.
The middle order, Adams didn't come off for Hussain, which was a problem at 6. He needed Adams and Flintoff 6 and 7. He needs that lower order to come and be positive and score runs, and really England should have made 400 there.
Here for LBW, up goes the finger.
Yeah, obviously I think they have got a considerable tail when you compare them to our own side, because obviously we say Boucher comes in at 9. So to compare the two, you sort of can work out which is the stronger tail. So we always knew if we get amongst the wickets that we could maybe finish them off quite cheaply.
England 9 down.
But then we didn't bat very well. I think Caddick bowled very well that day, and they got the ball in the right areas, and I mean, we managed to find the edges.
Oh, that's edged and caught. Stewart takes the catch.
Caddick bowled deliveries that Shaun Pollock bowls consistently through a series. That ball just short of length that's climbing and takes the outside edge, takes glove.
Caddick, a lot of bounce for Caddick, directed at that off stump. Herschel Gibbs drawn into the shot, and really that leaves him off the seam.
Yeah, I think he's obviously quite similar in the fact that we both try and come a ball from as high as possible. So ideally I would have loved to have got 7 wickets, I can assure you. But I must admit that he did bowl very well on that day.
He's nicked it, first ball.
So this was Caddick's day, and he has been an inspiration to England for a long time, for probably over 12 months now. And just shows you really he should have played, shouldn't he, for 3 years before that. He should have been a mainstay of the England attack. OK, bowlers do improve, and he's certainly improved. He loves bowling, and what a performance that was. South Africa following on. Now, and I think I'm right in saying it was the first time that they've ever followed on under Hansie Cronje's captaincy. And he was a miserable man. I talked to him at the end of the day. He didn't know what to do now. I mean, they'd never followed on.
The only consolation for Cronje was the 9th wicket partnership of 70 between Shaun Pollock and Paul Adams, which kept England in the field for an extra 18 overs.
Well, it was quite nice, because in a way we were under a bit of pressure, but it also allowed me to play a lot of freedom, because the batters with me at the time was Paul Adams, and you don't sort of expect him to hang around for too long. So I just had the freedom to express myself and play my shots, and it all worked out. And every risk I took worked, and I managed to get myself up to 60 something.
His innings just transformed the game though, because I mean at night I think it's something like 89 for 8 when he was 2 not out, and that partnership there that Pollock ended up getting 60 odd and turned the whole game around, because I think if England had knocked them over that quickly they would have gone into them again. But I think having that last couple of wickets putting on those runs, I think took the pressure off South Africa a bit, even though they followed on.
And he's dragged it on the inside edge and into the stumps.
Not a great situation. Only the fact that saved it was the fact that it was such a good wicket. And in the second innings we were really able to bat on and bat really big. We probably were lucky that they enforced the follow-on. Maybe they should have batted again.
I think England had to enforce the follow-on because of the amount of time they'd taken batting. That was the problem. In an ideal world they would have said, right, let's go out and thrash 200 or 190 as quick as we can and get South Africa in again. Hopefully the wicket might have deteriorated a bit. As it happened, it didn't, so it wouldn't have made any difference. If England had batted, they wouldn't have had any benefit of a poor pitch to bowl on the final day.
This is nicely cut.
The South African saviour was Gary Kirsten, who'd scored just 41 runs so far in the series.
Well played, he used his feet well.
Yeah, well, we know that Gary's the kind of guy who can bat for long periods. He always has been, and he's done that job for us in the past. He had been going through a bit of a bad trot, and the pressure was on him to perform, and he answered his critics in the best possible way. Came out and got a huge score, so there can't be any arguing about that.
Kirsten's 275 following on. I mean, he's the ideal batsman to have in your side for a follow-on situation, really, because he doesn't, whatever the situation, he always bats the same. And sadly, England didn't really look like getting him out.
Gary Kirsten goes to his 10th Test century to go with 18 half-centuries. Well played, young man.
2 wickets to Flintoff at the end of day 4 gave England hope of a much-needed win. But night watchman Boucher joined Kirsten in a stand of almost 200.
You see, once Boucher gets going, he's prepared to play his shots, and he's very talented.
Boucher, I mean, for him to be coming in number 9 on the card is a joke, really. He could easily bat number 6 at Test match level.
Yeah, well, his nickname in our side is Guinness, and he obviously came in as night watchman and got 100. So he just keeps breaking records left, right, and centre, and it's really great to have someone like that to come and do a job.
Smashed this one to the boundary, well in front of square. Kirsten now plays a handsome-looking shot too, off the back foot, and that's gone to the boundary. There it is. He just guides it down to third man, Gary Kirsten, a monumental effort. Now Boucher has got strike. Can he get his 100? Can there be more excitement? There is. He plays almost the identical shot to Gary Kirsten. The only thing is he gets 4 and not 1. But Mark Boucher has gone to a magnificent century.
By the time Boucher went for a marvellous 108, the draw was assured, and it only remained to see if Kirsten could surpass Daryl Cullinan's 275 for the highest test score by a South African.
He's bowled him out behind his legs. I don't believe it. No. That is unbelievable. Look at Cullinan.
3 days later, both sides regrouped in Cape Town, full of expectation for the new millennium.
Huge pressure on England leaving Durban and going down to the Cape, where huge support, English support. It's a bit like in the West Indies when England go to Barbados. It's the same sort of pressure, but a nice one. I mean, great support. The only problem is that England had 3 days in the field and back-to-back test matches, only 2 days in between the test matches, and that was a big ask for England, and they were all dreading the toss. The thought of England being in the field again at Newlands, it was just a horrific thought, because Caddick was almost burnt out. I felt Caddick was going to struggle in the Newlands test, and he did. He'd put life and soul into that, well, heart and soul into that performance, and I didn't feel he would have had enough time to recharge the batteries.
England were therefore delighted to win the toss again, and even more delighted as the openers put on their first good stand of the series.
Yeah, they did get off to a great start. Obviously, we were always looking to strike early, and that day we didn't manage it. And by lunch, I think they were still none down. So we were staring it a bit down the barrel, but we stuck to our guns and probably didn't bowl as well as we should have in the morning session. And after lunch, came out with a bit of game plan and managed to get the ball in the right areas and made things happen.
Pollock didn't bowl his best, and there was a strong, they call it the black southeaster, this strong wind in Pollock's face. It made it very hard for him to bowl from one end. So really the threat was only going to come from one end.
There you go, that's through the covers. 4 runs all the way, and that brings up the 100 partnership for England. Their best start by a long way in this series.
Then, I think, it's easy in hindsight, but I think England made a mistake. I think they had it in their mind that this was their opportunity to win the game. It was a pitch that was likely to turn a bit near the end of the game. It was very dry, and I think they felt this is a result pitch normally. Cape Town, it's normally a result at Newlands. And they started playing with too much confidence, too much freedom. And Alan Donald's the master of that. When he sees that sort of thing, by his own admission, he thought at lunchtime they were in serious trouble. But they worked out another ploy. Donald ran in and just bowled short. He bombed them for about 45 minutes, and England would have done well just to let a few of those go and say, well, there are a few other bowlers we can score off here. And of course, first Atherton and then Stewart and Butcher all got out taking on this short ball from Donald. Now, they've played a whole career against Donald where more often than not, you don't take him on the short balls.
Yeah, well, we realised that they were looking to be aggressive at that stage, and they were all going for their shots. A lot of them like to play their shots. We thought we had a chance of getting them out caught on the fence, and it worked for Alan. It was we thought we could have got them out there a couple of times in the series, but it was only on this occasion that it happened.
The demise of Stewart for 40 sent the visitors spiralling as 213 for 3 subsided to 258 all out in 26 overs.
Oh, gone. Not the shot of a night watchman.
Maybe there's a bit of a lack of experience in the middle order, but as I say, we were really happy with the way we bowled, and we bowled with discipline and got the balls in the right places, and things happened from there.
It's the disappointment that they probably sense from everybody watching, a huge English contingent, and England have collapsed again. They hadn't collapsed in the series. I don't call the Wanderers dismissal for 122, I don't call that a collapse. It was a poor wicket, and England, it was the first innings of the series. Here was a flat one in the 4th test match, where England had shown great fight in the previous 2 test matches, and here the all too familiar batting collapsed.
It's high in the air, Rhodes is running round and has taken the catch. Klusener gets his first wicket of the series. Flintoff got carried away. Oh, gone again. Well, Klusener's got 2 now in his first over.
Well, it's all over now. Kallis does the job. Tufnell clean bowled for 2, and England all out for 258.
Herschel Gibbs went for 29 as South Africa began their reply, but Kirsten and Jacques Kallis took control of a flagging England attack, an attack which was soon to lose Andy Flintoff with a fractured toe.
Well, that's smashed away, it's going to go all the way, it's 4 more runs.
It was still in the balance, and we still knew we had to bat well, and we wanted to get a decent lead, and the guys did dig in, and we got some good score.
Side off stump and planted through mid-wicket by Kallis.
Well, it's a hell of a difficult when you play your back-to-back test matches, obviously, in Durban, and then come and play the sort of New Year's test here. And the Durban heat does take a toll, and they'd been out in the field for 2 and a bit days, so it probably did sap a bit out of them, and maybe that did contribute, but I can understand how if they were tired if they were.
Good shot. No need for anyone to move.
South Africa cruised to 200 for 1 by the close on day 2, and a score in excess of 500 seemed inevitable. But Chris Silverwood, called up from the A Tour to replace Dean Headley, came flying in on the 3rd morning and sparked a revival.
You know, they got the hiding they expected, but the fight back was just, you wouldn't have seen that in an England side in the previous decade. It was incredible how England fought back on a flat pitch from that 200 for 1 situation to, at one stage, being well in the game. It was only that, again, those lower order players who scored runs against England there yet again that took the game away from England. This is where Hussain now was beginning to establish a reputation here of being a tough competitor, a good leader, and he's got his troops going in the field every single test match. And he's rallied them, he's changed the field, he's put pressure on the batsmen all the time, and he certainly has come out of this series as a much more aggressive captain, positive captain than Hansie Cronje by a long way.
That's carried to 2nd slip. Silverwood's done it again. This is great stuff from England, and a good catch by Chris Adams in the slips. He's got him. A great piece of bowling from Darren Gough. England have done their homework on Lance Klusener. They suffered in Port Elizabeth at his hands.
This time it was Cullinan and Boucher with a stand of 90 who defied England's best efforts. Cullinan's 10th Test century was a masterly innings, and when he was last out for 120, the lead had grown to an insurmountable 163.
He's been looking for that shot, hasn't he? He's had a couple of goes.
Going for it this time. There it is, 100 for Daryl Cullinan.
Daryl came to the fore again just when we needed him, and to get that lead was very important psychologically, and then in the next innings to start off like we did and get a few wickets up front was very important for us, and once we had got that we knew we had a foot in the door and just kept on the pressure.
I think the stuffing had been knocked out of them in the first innings, and come the second innings there was a little bit of a lack of fight, to be honest.
Oh, now then, has he got a thin edge on that? Yes, he has. Michael Vaughan has gone.
Well, that's a fantastic catch, and that could be the end of England's resistance. Well, no luck for Alex Stewart. That's rocketed off bat and boot, I think, onto his stumps.
The left-arm spinner started showing a few up as well, which was disappointing because there wasn't a lot of turn. It was a game where I sort of felt England would lose, having collapsed in the first innings, but they should have shown more fight. They should have taken the game, perhaps to after tea on the final day, which, of course, now it's history. They didn't get anywhere near.
Well caught. Alan Donald may not be picking up any of those last remaining 10 wickets to take him to 300, but that's a very good catch. And that's it. Tufnell goes caught at slip. Another wicket for Paul Adams. And England loses Test match by an innings. The margin an innings and 30.
The poor weather that had spoiled preparations for the 5th test at Supersport Park Centurion relented just enough to allow 72 overs on the first day. Hussain won his 4th successive toss, and it was a good one.
Nicked it out, caught second slip.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate. If we hadn't won the toss, we'd have put the England in. It did go around in the morning, and obviously that was due to the fact that there wasn't too much sunshine around before the game started. So that's what happens in Test cricket. Sometimes you catch it good, and sometimes you catch it bad.
Slip, and he's out.
Well, the pitch at Centurion, yes, it's always got a bit of loopy bounce in it, and it had been under cover a lot. The rain they'd had in Pretoria for the 2 days before that was staggering, and we didn't expect to get any play at all on that first day. And of course it was a lively pitch when we did get play on that first day, and England bowled very badly actually. They sprayed the ball around, they couldn't control it, and it was perfect England conditions. It was overcast, the ball was seaming off a length, and Caddick bowled okay.
Bowled him out!
But Mullally sprayed it around, Goff didn't bowl so well, and we wasted a good opportunity. But having said that, at the end of the day, South Africa had lost 6 wickets, and England was still very much in that game.
In the air, Cullinan walks away disgusted. Mullally does it himself, gets underneath it, and takes the catch, and Daryl Cullinan is out.
But the visitors' strong position was ruined by torrential rain, which prevented any further play for 3 days. No result looked possible, but Hansie Cronje had other ideas.
First thing I heard when I got to the ground is that Hansie Cronje had offered 255 off 73 overs to Nasser Hussain, and Nasser had turned it down. And he turned it down rightly, because the wicket had done so much on the first day that he thought you can't possibly risk chasing more than about 100. England wouldn't have got 100 on that against Pollock, I don't think.
We had discussed it, and we had put a proposal forward to England on the morning of the last day, and they weren't too interested in it. I think they thought maybe the wicket would be quite sporting again, and after the first half an hour or so, I think they realised that it had flattened out, obviously with all the rolling and the sunshine that had gotten it by that stage, and so then they were re-interested in us setting them a target. I think it was great for the game. Obviously it was nothing in it at that stage. It was a dead test match, and managed to revitalise it and bring it to life, and probably have the closest test match that I've ever been involved in for certain, and I'll always remember it for that. So I think what happened in the end with the declarations and that making a game of it was superb.
10 out of 10 for Cronje for trying to make a game, and 9.5 out of 10 for Hussain for eventually agreeing to it. But great effort from those two captains, and whatever stick they've had in the media afterwards, I think it's disgraceful. If people don't want to see an entertainment, then they shouldn't bother coming to cricket.
England was set 249 to win in 76 overs, and there was no Alan Donald. He pulled out of the match with gout, but none of the first 3 batsmen really got going.
It was one of those declarations where if you were still in at the end, you ought to have got the runs, because it was only ever around the sort of 3.8 and over, 4 and over occasionally, and it just needed somebody to play a top innings, somebody to have sort of hold the backbone of the innings, hold it together. And Michael Vaughan, of course, was in a way the surprise man. He was dropped down the order below Adams. Adams again failed, which was a great shame. I'd love to have seen him have a knock in Test cricket, just to see how he might have played when he was on top. And this was the perfect scene for him. He could have gone out and thrashed 70 and won the game for England. But it was Vaughan who supported Alex Stewart, who again, you know, man of the series really in terms of the batting for England. Hussain, to me, the overall man of the series because of his captaincy. But Vaughan played beautifully and won man of the match, and it just needed somebody to stay calm. And it was lovely to see a young man make his first half century in Test cricket and win man of the match in what was a contrived game, but a brilliant day of Test cricket.
That's a cracking shot from Michael Vaughan, backward of square. He's played some of his best shots of the series in this innings, and that's one of them. He's gone for a big one, and it is a big one. It's 6 runs. Brings him to his half century.
And 4 more runs is going to help aplenty. Down the wicket and hits inside out, and that's 4 runs. Brings up the 100 partnership, 205 for 4, and he's 50, his first Test match 50. All happens off 1 ball, 1 delightful shot.
A brilliant partnership of 126 between Stewart and Vaughan had brought England to the brink of victory, but then a wicket and the nerves crept in.
As always, in a sort of run chase, you're going to have this, and England got it. They started to panic a bit. I mean, they don't win many Test matches at the moment, and here was a golden opportunity to win a Test match, and they lost wickets at a bad time. Alex Stewart was cruising to victory when he got out. Maddy got run out going for that was a bad second as it happened. Vaughan got out at a crucial time, having played so well, and then to see Darren walk to the crease, you never know what's going to happen when he gets in, but he tends to be the man who's always about when England win a Test match, whether it's knocking over the number 11 or hitting the winning runs.
When we got down to 7 balls to go, and I think they needed 6 runs, I think we probably didn't think it through as much as we could have. Obviously there's ways of limiting the runs and bowling down the leg side, but that probably wasn't the true spirit of it, and with Silverwood at the wicket and Goffey, we always felt that we did have a chance of getting those wickets.
Crash through to the man on the boundary who didn't see it, ran in the wrong direction. That just might be a winning hit. It isn't, of course, because 2 more runs are required.
And Silverwood hit that extraordinary shot over extra cover. I'm not sure what sort of shot it was. It was sort of, he just sort of flipped it over extra cover. And Peter Strayham on the fence didn't pick it up. It was quite dark then, but you know, he ran the wrong way. It goes to the other side, and we get 4 runs for it. And England needing 2 off the last over, not such a problem, but 6 would have been a problem.
Pulled away by Goff for 4, and England win the 5th Test match of this 5-Test series, set up by declaration earlier in the day, and then 2 innings forfeited. But what wonderful entertainment there's been from the 11 cricketers involved, for those that have patiently waited out 2 days of rain. But goodness me, what great entertainment we've had. And victory for England in this, the 5th and final Test.